Feeling the love.
Welcome back to Wrist Check Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 37.
Yes.
We've got two special guests on the couch with us tonight. Before I get started, allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Perry.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Rashawn.
And we make up the Wrist Check Podcast. Tonight, we have two gentlemen whom I admire. Both have amazing taste in watches, amazing style, and a keen eye for design. We have someone who's no stranger to the show. He's been on before, Mr. Jamaal Parham.
Yo, what up?
Writer and director. You might have seen his show on HBO, Pause, which is hilarious with Sam J.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Thank you.
How about that Derek Jeter documentary?
Oh, he did the commercial.
We just did the commercial.
My bad.
But thank you.
It's still good.
Just
yeah,
did
the
Derek
doc's
Jeter
really good. You
commercial.
guys check it out.
Yes.
Commercial's better. If you see the commercial, you don't have to see the documentary.
And we also have a dear friend of mine, someone whom I admire, very, very talented, Tyler Busher, one half of the creative agency known as the Binary Group.
Woo!
Hello.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Dear friend, that's
Of course.
That's heavy.
Yeah,
Y'all
we
bring
have-
the Pepperoso together.
I'm
It's
saying.
official.
I mean, once we go there,
This
it's
is
official.
a plug for Pepperoso.
So tonight, our conversation is centering around, obviously, timepieces, but around design. You are two people whom I respect because I know you have amazing taste. And you both are very particular
Yes.
about
That's a nice way to put
yes
it.
about what you collect. And so I thought it was only fitting to actually talk about aesthetics with regard to watches, watch history, and collecting tonight. But before we go there, we've got to have our honorary wrist check.
Yes.
Mr. Never Repeats a Watch.
You guys
wanna
put a
kick
lot
us
of
off?
pressure on
Are
me.
you repeating a watch?
So I am repeating the watch. So I am repeating the watch, but I felt like it was very appropriate for tonight because I'm wearing the 70s Turnograph two-tone, got the turning gold bezel, gold has the gold hands, it has the gold indices, has the gold bracelet. It matches the hardware on the butters. So I felt like it was very appropriate. Shout out to Nora Taylor from Hodinky because I'm actually rocking her gold ring. If you guys can see it, it's actually a
little
watch.
Nice.
So I felt like it worked with what I was wearing. So repeating the watch for the right reasons.
There we go.
So please, guys, don't be too hard on me.
All right. Let's turn it over here real quick. My man Tyler. Yeah, it's on you.
Yeah, you got put on the spot.
You're wearing a watch that's a favorite of mine, actually.
What?
Yeah, no. We talked about this.
Yeah, it's true.
This is
I
a
was
good
just
one.
being surprised.
So what's on the wrist, my friend?
It's an IKEPod Chronopod 003.
What does any of that mean?
Someone knows what it is.
Originally, it was Mark Newson and another person's company.
Yeah.
And, went bankrupt. And then a couple guys bought it. Shout out Christian Louis Cole because he sent it to me. Thank you. But I really loved it. Me and Bon Q, he's in the audience somewhere. We've loved it. We've been trying to get it. We went to Sotheby's, you guys' event, and they had a couple there, and they reached out and wanted to buy that watch, but it was like $20,000. They didn't want to buy that. I don't think. And then, we've been talking for a while, and he was like, "Oh, I want to send you this one," and I was like, "Please send me that one."
It's a great one.
So to be clear, the new owners of IKEPod reached out to you because of a watch that you posted from Sotheby's.
From you guys' event.
Yes. And they wanted to buy it.
Yeah, they were looking to buy it. Yeah, because they also sell the pre-owned stuff on their site. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and I love sci-fi, UFOs, and stuff, and it looks like a UFO.
And for those that don't know, Mark Newson is the guy who's behind the design for the Apple Watch.
Yes.
So that's why there's a lot of similarities. That's why I'm a huge fan. I was actually a fan of the Apple Watch because I was a fan of that watch first.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a good one. Jamaal,
Yeah.
what do you got on the wrist? You got something new.
I got something new.
Ooh.
I am wearing a Rolex Explorer 2. Polar
favorite
dial.
Rolex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
sir.
So this was I know you because we were talking about this. This is a new acquisition.
It's a new acquisition, and last time I was on the show,
You were
said
talking
I
about
think it's going to be my next watch.
and this is your first modern Rolex.
it's my first modern Rolex. Yeah.
Respect.
My first
Congratulations,
Rolex.
sir.
Yeah.
It's fire.
Yeah, I love it. It's really hard to take off.
Yeah.
It's like this one's been getting a lot of love for the last
Yeah.
couple months. So
Respect. I'll go next because I know my friend to my left has got something special on. But I have something special on too.
You do.
I do.
You do.
I've got on a John special.
Shout out to John John.
Shout out to John.
Can we
I
give
have-
John a round of applause, please? Yes.
Everyone finally knows what you look like.
Yes.
He's turning red right now.
So I'm rocking. This is actually my favorite Patek, the 5212
Weekly
Calatrava.
calendar.
weekly calendar. It's amazing. I remember we were talking about this before and how it reminds me of it reminds us of Tom Sachs.
Yes.
Right? The handwritten dial has a very similar aesthetic to his artwork, and then with the markers that are in there with sort of like the red baton, it's kind of nice. It's a nice little touch. So I thought I'd rock this tonight, especially being that our conversation was about design. It just feels appropriate. It matches my shirt.
Yes.
Feels very woodsman.
Yeah, you tried to take that from me. You stole it from me.
I did. Yeah, you know that happens.
That's okay.
What do
It's
you
in
got?
the family still. So
do you
I'm
got?
wearing 2 watches tonight. Both of them are
Double wristing.
very, very special.
Wait, that's my part. These watches are very,
Yes.
very special.
So they're both from my favorite brands. I'm wearing the FP Journe Octa S. It's a
Yeah.
It's a second.
That's right.
And it belongs to Eric, who's in the front row.
Shout out to Eric.
Very good friend of the podcast.
Yes. Good friend of the podcast.
So
Shout out to
it's a
Eric.
second gen joint. So it's a titanium case and titanium movement. So it's as light as a feather and it has rubber inserts. So if there's a watch you're going to beat the out of, this is it.
I really love
sure.
the bracelet on this piece too.
The bracelet's good, and again, you guys know I'm a sucker for red. All the details on this are in red. Red seconds hand, red seconds, red day-night indicator, which is crazy. Red power reserve indicator, and a red date. Then
It's
on
a lot
the
of
other
red.
wrist, I'm also wearing a John special.
Are we bros?
Yeah,
Patek
Ben.
bros?
Ben.
Okay.
So I wore this one because to Perry's point, the conversation is about design, and it's a golden ellipse,
Yes.
which is based on Da Vinci's theory of divine proportion.
The golden ratio.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
So very interesting watch. It's just supposed to work on everyone, and it does.
It
So
does.
we'll go more in depth.
Very
on that
handsome
later.
piece.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Dress down, it's the best.
Love that. So, gentlemen, you guys rolled up on us with 2 interesting pieces. What inspired you to? I want to start with you, Tyler. What inspired you to rock this piece tonight?
Well, aside from them sending it to me last week,
Sure.
it's everything that like we do with our company, me and Jenny, who's right there, sitting right
Shout out
there.
to Jenny.
Shout out
Shout out
to
to
Jenny.
One half. I think everything to me has a meaning, and it's inspired by something. But we always are very inspired by sci-fi and spiritual stuff. So it's just like the UFO thing is like the kind of idea of like looking up,
Yeah.
and this looks like a UFO, and it's
It
just
does, yeah.
All right, I love it. It's pretty
Respect.
really simple.
Yeah. What is it about the Explorer 2 that really gets you? I know this is something that we would talk about often, kind of nerd out on.
Yeah, it's I mean, I love watches that can be worn like workwear. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I don't work construction, but I love Carhartt and like government pants and like you know what I mean. And it's like I like that aesthetic of like, yo, this is a thing that can get beat up and like you can put through the paces. And to me, this is the Rolex that really does that.
It does,
Like,
yeah. There's something about, I always say it too, there's something about this piece, the Explorer 2, that's incredibly special because it channels for me the spirit of Rolex, how I remember it when I was a kid,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
that's
it's like adventure.
a tools watch.
Yeah.
You know, adventure.
Yeah.
For all the spelunkers out
Yeah.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I wanted you two on the show this evening because, again, like we said before, I think that you guys have I think you have a great perspective in terms of design. I'm someone, coming from the culture that we come from, New York City, streetwear, fashion, highbrow, lowbrow, everything in between. I always think about like using references
Yeah.
for like pulling for inspiration. And so I'm interested in how do you define good design? Like what is good design for you?
I mean, for me, in the specifically in the field that I'm in, which is film and TV and commercials and moving images, it's about beautiful and efficient communication. And this idea that something can be really simple but very artful at the same time and tell a story, I think it is really what I talk about when I talk about design.
My answer is not going to be that nice. It does have to have, everything has to have meaning, and everything has to make you feel something. And I think that's the issue, is a lot of stuff doesn't make you feel something, but good design, everyone can feel it. And that's what the same thing with watches to me is, it's like if I feel it, I like it. I don't know movements, I'm not a watchmaker, but I feel something when I see certain watches. So it's the same thing with all good design.
Yeah, something, go ahead.
No, so I was gonna ask, as like a two-part question, like, when did you guys see that design was something that was very prevalent to you, to where, you know, you weren't just investing in anything, especially when we're talking about timepieces, because it does get very expensive. When did you know that you had to kind of go that route as far as design over everything?
Michael Jordan,
Really?
sneakers.
Elaborate.
Growing up, I was born in Kansas, grew up in Harlem, but it was sneakers. I just remember at one point, I just saw a sneaker and I was like, this is it. It was a Jordan 4, Bred 4. Some kid walked into the Reaper's favorite shoes. Also, the first thing he saw too was the same thing. And it was like seeing the line, seeing the design, seeing the hang tag with the air. The kid still had that on when he was walking, which is crazy. But seeing that was my first time in awe of like a product. It was never really, you know, it was a Jordan 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
1989, my birth year.
Okay.
And also my favorite Rolex from 1999.
Okay.
I don't know if I can pinpoint it. I think for me, it's been something that's just always been around. Like I was always a kid who was very aesthetically driven. You know, it's like, you know, we talked about this a little bit before, but it's like just having stuff and like the way your collection was displayed and like the way things were organized. And I think for me, it was all about, again, like visually organizing something in a way that said something about me. And I wasn't that intellectual when I was 5, obviously, but it's like,
But
that's
like
kind of what
curating.
it felt. Yeah, excuse me. But yeah, it was curation.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you guys were, you were intentional about not only what you were, I guess, purchasing via like your parents.
Yeah, proxy.
Right? But like you
What was
were
going on in the
actually
Santa
like
Claus
the intent
list.
was like where I would put it.
yeah,
And how
yeah,
it would
yeah.
fit into my
and how
life.
it fit in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the thing with like design, like good design too, is for me at least, when I think about design, there's the aesthetic nature, but then there's also like the thought behind it,
Yeah.
right? Like good design solves problems.
Yeah.
Good design operates on like certain principles, like symmetry, the use of like color palettes, and even just when we go back to like referencing, right? Like talking about using your Explorer 2 and wearing it as workwear.
Yeah.
And like what workwear means in like fashion today, where it's kind of like an oxymoron kind of thing, right? Where it's
Right.
like it was designed for a specific intent, but now it's like stylish, and in some spaces
Right.
it's almost luxury.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you buy like a $400 work shirt. Yeah.
That you do not work in.
You gonna work in it, just not how it's supposed to be.
But you know what I mean? It's like it is that. It's all part of a story and an evolving story. Like
Yeah.
the way that these things have a conversation with the world around it.
Right.
And I think part of my love of design has always been what I think I talk about my armor, like with the armor that I put on to show who I am to the world, and it's part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think good design at its base just needs to function.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Well, think about a watch, right? If you have a watch that doesn't work and it's just like
Sure.
whatever, right? You see sculptural art, and like, well, our producer Light, he sent us that thing on Instagram earlier. It was that waterfall that tells time.
Yeah, I reposted
Right.
that actually. That was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
But if that was just a waterfall, we just walk past all the time and not give a fuck. But it's telling the time, and if
Yeah.
you kept watching the video, it tells the moon phases,
Mhm.
tells the date, tells the month. You observe it, and that makes you feel something. That's special, not just water coming out of a concrete
So I think,
block.
going back to like what Tyler was saying, there's like an emotional response,
Yeah.
something almost visceral. You guys both collect vintage watches. I'm curious, because I know how particular you guys are. Do you have, like, when you're looking at vintage watches, are you collecting based on a certain aesthetic? Does time period play a role? How has that influenced your collecting at all? Like, in terms of, like, what are the boxes that you're trying to check?
For me, my favorite period is kind of late 60s, early 70s.
Interesting.
And I think it's more like I just like the funky stuff that they were doing back then. You know what I mean? It's about color. It's about like there's just a feeling. Like it's almost like this is what designers in the late 60s thought the future was going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the Jetsons.
It's the Jetsons. You know what I mean? Like I've got my Accutron Deep Sea up here that's like, it's just this weird kind of blue and orange watch with this orange hand. It's a little futuristic.
Can
you
you
have it
share
here,
it to
right?
the crowd?
Yeah, just throw it in there. See what happens.
I'll pass it around. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's this idea of, you could see what the kind of cultural story was. It's like this idea of like, we were going to space. Like there was unlimited possibility. And like how that translates to design, I think is just really, really interesting. I mean, Omega had a lot of weird watches at this time. It's like weird oval cases and, a lot of people doing integrated bracelets. Like I'm a sucker for an integrated bracelet. It's, just really cool stuff like that.
No, I like what you said about that because it also feels like now everything's for commerce opposed to back then it felt like they were making something new.
Yeah.
And now everything is like you look at sneakers, you look at watches, you look at clothes, everything's a nod to something before. From back then, it felt like everything was pushing towards something new, something that was creative in your imagination.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I'm a vintage collector. I collect for
most of your watches are vintage.
Well, I mean, it's price range. I can get it for cheaper. Yeah. But it's more so I want stuff to have meaning first.
Yeah.
And we can look back on stuff that are vintage and understand the time.
So speaking of vintage, we have some images up. This was an image that you chose.
Yeah,
right?
and this was really like the Carrera 2447 is one of my favorite watches, and I think when I think about design in a watch, like I think if you can design a chronograph well, like that's kind of the key. There's so much information that has to be so readable so quickly and sometimes at the same time that just like the balance in this thing is really beautiful and perfect and also very simple. Like it's, these beautiful like blues and this white polar cream dial. It's easy to read, but there's so much going on at the same time that just has a balance to it,
The 60s is actually my favorite period for design.
Yeah.
In terms of like typeface, and then like this like curved linear like aesthetic that they had.
Like
it was
wild
by
couches.
hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
exactly. We got another image. Boom.
This is like the 4.6 of his 4.0.
So this one, Tyler, this was yours.
This is my dream watch.
This is your dream watch. Talk about this a little bit.
I just when I first saw it, I remember the coffee shop I was at, and I remember seeing it. And I was like, "This is typeface."
You saw it in the coffee shop.
I was in Lucille's coffee shop in Harlem on whatever. But I just remember seeing the typeface, same as the one in the Hoyer. It just felt like there was an emotion behind it, and all that stuff was hand done back in the day, right? So like looking at stuff now, like you can get all the typefaces on the computer, and it's easy to do everything now. But looking at this, there feels like there's something there. Same with the Hoyer. It's the same exact thing. It's just, to me, I saw it. I remember the day I saw it. I was like, this is the watch. If I get this watch, I can go in a cave and never talk to anybody
else. And this
else.
is like the same period too.
Same exact, it's the same exact.
Well, you can almost kind of see the problem solving in like how it's laid out. You know what I mean? And it's there's just something intrinsically beautiful about that.
What's the circle on this piece? Do you know?
This is 1960s.
That's 60s.
Yeah, it's the 60s. Yeah.
I think it's for doctors and stuff.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
a
pulsometer.
pulsometer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's a pulsometer. This was definitely for doctors. But to piggyback on what Jamaal was talking about, my favorite era is actually the 70s.
Really?
So 70s design is mine, and the funniest thing is that Jamaal talks about exploration.
Okay.
And if you notice in the 70s, those things were actually implemented. You think about just like how, people were living, fashion, the introduction of like even fitness and like things like that. Like so many different things were introduced to people that was so like unfathomable that they actually decided to like start to apply it.
Yeah.
And you do see it in timepieces in general, So I really think that like the 70s is like my favorite era.
I think in terms too, like when you're talking about functionality, right, and like usefulness, a pulsometer. This is a tool watch.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what's kind of cool about it too, right? Like there's something for everybody, like even doctors. This like predates the Daytona.
Right.
Yeah, it's fire.
This is a steel, technically Daytona that I actually like.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's really
Mr.
cool.
Dickey
But it kind of reminds you of like the weekly calendar, and it's kind of like handwritten.
Well, it's like to Tyler's point, it's a typeface.
Someone
had to
But
write that
it's
out.
also
Yeah,
red.
exactly.
It's also red and blue, which are like in everything. Red and blue always stand out. It's like the two things: Democrat, Republican. Blood, red and blue. It's always red and blue.
Yeah.
But they pull to you like pull to like the
Yeah.
red and blue is just like it draws your eye.
And when you think about like being a pulsometer, it's like it also recalls like the drawings that you see of the circulatory system,
Right.
Like the red blood,
Yeah.
the blue blood. You know what I mean? It's like it's all like
That's
feels very
interesting take.
thoughtful.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. We got another pick. Boom. So when we're talking about K-shape,
K-shape.
hey, we got some haters out there.
Yeah, what was
Like,
We
I'll
love
fi-
Grand
I'll fight
Seiko
y'all.
over here.
Spit it.
Hold on, wait. What's that reference?
SPGV 245.
245.
Gang gang.
Yeah.
GS9. So you oh God. Not Bobby Schmurda.
That's a real New York reference for you.
Listen, shout out to all my guys in the floors.
So
Yes, we're having fun with it.
we having fun.
Thank you guys.
So case design.
Yeah. I mean, fight me, but I think Grand Seiko has the best case design,
That
hands down.
44 GS is
And
legendary.
but this
Yeah.
is just there's something about it where it's like round and square at the same time.
It's
You know
a
what I
tank.
mean? It's just
Yeah, it is.
and
It's
it's
a tank.
like it just feels gorgeous. Like it's like you
But
look
that's
at it.
that's 70s design.
Yeah, and it's also very minimal. Like
Yes.
it's very sleek.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's probably my favorite of the Grand Seiko.
Really?
Like, yeah, I've been trying to track down one in fairly good condition for a good price. But it's just there's just something about it that calls to me, you know.
Yeah, this piece is fire, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really cool.
We got another one. Here we go. Now I'm a Cartier guy, and so I'm definitely with you
Did
here.
Tyler pick that?
Of course.
I'm supposed to talk about this?
Yeah.
Sorry. What is it, 1575? That's the only time I'm ever going to say a reference because I
Okay.
don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But it's platinum. Right? We talked
Yes.
about 4.0, 4.6.
Gear-shaped dial.
It's the same thing. It's just like
Beautiful
I grew up
piece.
wanting a platinum watch.
Yeah.
Right? But I also love my first actual kind of expensive watch was the Cartier.
We have one here, don't
the
we?
Galbi.
You want to pull it out?
The-
Yeah, will you share? While
Maybe
you're
you
grabbing
work
while you're grabbing that, I have to give a shout out to Derek Mon.
Is he in here? Where you at?
He's in here.
Shout
The
out.
Minute
There you
Mon.
go.
Shout out to Derek Mon. He just shared a video about timepieces being at 10 and 2. So
Yup.
all the images that you see are at 10 and 2.
10-10.
Yes.
So did y'all realize that I picked the day to do this on purpose? It's 10-10.
I was gonna ask.
It's
I was gonna
10-10.
ask if
What
that
are you
was.
talking about?
When we spoke about it, and I was like, do 10-10, do it Monday. We had a conversation. It's in our chat. It's in our chat.
This part needs,
remember that.
This part needs to be on
It's in
Patreon.
our chat.
Gonna be the next
in-
slide.
subscribe to Patreon.
Style.
Next,
My man Tyler-
Patreon.
My man Tyler's got a watch. So this was your first vintage timepiece. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to buy a watch until I brought the watch that I always wanted.
Right.
And this is not it. And I gave
Okay.
it.
That's some introduction.
I feel like timing is everything, and it was the perfect timing. I got hit up by the perfect person. It was a perfect price, and it was just like this is like me and Bonq always talked about it on wine night. I was like, yo, I want a Galbi. It's small. I have little wrists, and I really wanted this. But then that's the version that I really want,
Okay.
which is It's
I mean, it's
Platinum.
platinum.
but it's a Santos Dumont, which is to me better design because it feels a little flatter, not as round.
There's something about a Santos on the strap that is just like
it's always been.
I love the bracelet though. Don't get me wrong.
I've always wanted a gator strap.
Sure.
For some reason, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It was always like,
has a feeling to
I
it.
need a gator strap with the precious metal.
Sure.
I don't have it yet.
You okay? It's coming. It's in the mail.
Yeah.
But it just, for some reason, I always see this watch and it's like, yo, I need that.
Yeah. So I think the Santos makes an interesting conversation for good design, right? Because you talk about functionality, you talk about usefulness. Like the whole idea and premise of this watch was legibility.
Yeah.
Right? This is, a lot of people don't consider this because we sort of classify watches in different terms than what they're meant for. For example, like we'll use the term dress watch. But this is actually
sports watch.
It's a sports watch,
Yeah.
but sports in terms of like leisure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Rich people sports.
Yes.
I'm not flying a plane.
Yeah, it's a pilot's watch.
It was a pilot's watch.
Yeah, it was a pilot's watch.
And that's like one of the things about this piece that's like so interesting to me.
Yeah.
It makes me feel
But
like
the weird thing to me is also design because I don't know who it was, if it was you guys, I don't know who it was. It might be in
Sure.
YouTube.
We taking credit.
But the 4, that's not a Roman numerals actual 4.
that's correct.
It's
Yeah.
supposed to be symmetric.
Yeah.
Like the Air King.
Rolex does the same thing.
Like the
yeah.
Air King, you guys are like, yo, you don't like the old Air King, you like the new Air King, and it's because it has the 0.5
0.5,
instead of 5.
Yes.
And I saw that and I was like, all right, you're right.
Symmetry. Good design.
Yeah, symmetry is
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. We got another one. Boom.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Polarizing.
That boy has a
expensive taste.
platinum movement.
Yeah.
That joint's
Not a
fire.
platinum case.
Platinum
A platinum
movement.
movement.
Yeah.
Platinum bezel and platinum movement.
Yeah.
That's
a big boy.
It's the Rattrapante. I believe
Yeah.
is how you pronounce it.
Yep.
I've yet to see this watch in person.
It's fire.
It's
good.
but the kind of design solution for using the third hand, like how that gold kind of slides behind the other hand when you're not using it,
Right.
I think is just really elegant.
It's like a nice
and
little
simple.
magic trick.
Yeah, it's a magic trick, right? And
Yeah.
it's like solving an issue of how to get another time zone in there without cluttering the watch in a way,
Yeah.
and also having it disappear when you don't need it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just really pretty to look at too. You know?
Yeah.
Very simple logos, like kind of perfectly balances at the top. I don't know. It's one of the ones I saw. I saw it when they released it, and I was like, I just need it.
Yeah.
I need that watch.
So that thing, it brings up another question to mind. I think one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, actually, this was, you
Yes.
had a question. I'm sorry.
Well, before we kind of move on, for the guys and gals that aren't watch aficionados, this is actually a Parmigiani. So if you don't know the brand, that's the brand. My question to you guys was, in your opinion, what exhibits exceptional design as far as a timepiece? Like, is there anything that just like blows your socks off?
Do you want to take this one first?
Exceptional design is that 60s, hand done, everything had a feeling. To me, that's what it is. Because I'm for a story and a feeling and for function. I'm not going to use it for its function. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pilot. But I want it to have that meaning behind it. And I think this is like, I mean, even looking at this, I never noticed that pusher there. That's kind of amazing.
Yes.
And that's why I was like, yo, is that a pusher on the
Yeah.
bottom?
Yeah.
So the
right.
pusher is for the
The-
dual time.
The dual time, yeah.
Yeah.
But the placement of the pusher is different from any pusher I've ever really seen.
Also, too, the simple fact that it doesn't have a seconds hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it very clean. It makes it very tasteful. I mean, it goes back to the old essence of, a dress watch. Because I guess if this was back in that circa, it would have been a dress watch without a seconds hand. So
Yeah.
traditionally, a dress watch did not have a seconds hand.
Yeah. I mean, it's a GMT without a date, which
Yeah.
is like hard to
That's also really
pull
cool
off,
too.
but it's like it's also just giving you just the bare minimum information that you need and doing it in a way that's like, oh yeah, no, I don't need that.
I think
know,
it's
it's
like,
I mean, how many
exactly
people
what it is.
actually
More of a
do
statement.
use their
Yeah,
dual
it's like
time too?
It's like I can do it because I can,
Yeah,
right? Like
yes.
this is not a watch that a pilot's going to use.
No.
I'm not gonna lie, I need a seconds hand. I would like to know the seconds.
No.
And when I see a watch with no seconds hand, I'm like, yo, what second is it? Because I have a watch. Why don't I know the second?
Mr.
I just wanted to
Functionality.
say, I'm a little tipsy right now. I drank a couple of spicy things.
But what is like a watch that like when you think of like exceptional design, what
Yeah.
piece comes to mind?
I mean, for me, it's always the Omega Speedmaster. I
Okay.
think is hands down
Yeah.
the best design watch ever.
We got to clap out.
Can we
there,
clap it
single
up to
clap.
that? We listen. We have some Omega Speedmaster fans. There's about 3 on the couch.
Yes, it also landed on the moon. I don't know if you guys knew about that.
You can't talk
Yeah,
about
no,
speed.
I- tell me more.
Yeah, no. So it turns out, but no, it's like again, it's like it's so cluttered with so many numbers and hashes and dials.
Yeah.
You look at it, you can instantly read everything on it, no
Yeah,
matter
it's
what.
super legible.
You know?
It's also like one of the timepieces that probably has the most iterations,
Yeah, for sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
different dials, different variations, like different placements of the sub dials. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many different
And I
references.
heard they did a thing with Swatch too.
that little.
Well, the funniest thing is when it comes to Omega, I think Omega Speedmaster in general, I don't really think, when I think of timepieces and collectors, I don't think there's a watch that like real enthusiasts and real collectors collect exclusively
Yeah.
outside of a Speedmaster.
Yeah, we say that all the time.
Well,
Like-
I think there are some brands, I think, but
I mean, to
it's
collect
very-
every single reference though.
the only brands I can think of is really like it's like Rolex, Patek, and Speedmaster.
But you only have like
The
4
difference-
GMTs to
Speedmaster's not a
collect.
brand.
but
There's
that's
like-
the thing. It's like with Speedies, right? The Speedy is not the brand. It's just like a particular model.
Yeah.
and that's the only
Yeah,
one.
you
like,
don't want
That's all
guys
we-
will
that's all we
have,
care
like,
about.
But that's what I'm talking about. Just
50
as
of
far as
them.
collecting, but but you are okay with collecting 50 Speedmasters.
Absolutely.
I'm not okay with collecting 50 Rolexes.
I mean,
You said you. I'm
very okay.
Rolex if you can have all of that.
You would love to have 50 Rolexes.
I would love to have
rather
all
have
the
50
Rolexes. But I'm
Rolexes.
saying,
This was Mr. I gotta catch them all.
yeah, what the sure, but there's not 50 Rolexes out there.
I don't
There
believe.
is.
Yes, it is. I don't
I'm
believe.
talking about in
Bro, there's like 100 Datejust. What are you talking about?
I don't want every single day just.
You
I'll
said you want every
I'll take
Rolex.
one day just, one GMT, one
All right,
Daytona,
we're-
etc.
I need 50
Let's
Rolexes.
let's
You
bring back
can
to
you can
let's
collect.
get back on track.
to bring it back to the
What
design.
are y'all talking
like-
about?
We're calling you.
But I will say that Swatch Speedmaster
The Moon
situation.
Swatch, yeah.
I've never met more people from anything else.
So that
Everyone
was,
would really
I
come
mean,
up
it
to
was
you.
a special evening.
Shout out to
got a
everybody who got a
single
moose
clap.
watch.
Shout out to the Moose Watch owner.
That's how we met.
That is how we met.
He was like, "Yo, Bonk, you had a Rolex on.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
everybody
we were
had
ta- we
watches
met, we
on."
were talking about
And he was
the
like, "Yo,
Moose
was
watch.
that a?" No, that was never mind. I'm lying. That was a G-Shock. Sorry. It was a fake story.
Fake story. Yeah, we made it up.
Shout out to G-Shock.
The Casio. That's how we met. The black that watch.
We were looking at something. We were looking at vintage watches when we met.
Yes.
Exceptional design. I wanted to hear from you too because I
Me?
know you've got a lot of opinions.
Yeah, I got one to throw in. I have to put a dog in the fight.
Okay.
It's the Grand Seiko Kodo.
Okay.
Okay.
That is the most handsome, craziest fucking looking skeleton watch
steampunk.
tourbillon ever created. Period.
Yeah.
And to take the watch out of it, the fucking strap is lacquered. Like the strap has layers to it.
Right.
That's an exceptionally designed watch.
It is.
It's a skeleton you can actually read.
I didn't know we could curse on here.
Yeah.
no F bombs.
Oh my bad.
Sorry.
It's going on Patreon.
I'd have been cursing like crazy.
That brings me to another question. Have you seen anything recently in terms of design that you feel like is really really breaks the mold? Like something that's just like really got your attention, kind of gave like a visceral response.
Yeah, I mean the not to bring it back to Parmigiani again, but
But you're gonna do it anyway.
but I'm gonna do, and I'll have a second.
You could.
The Tonda, the micro rotor,
Okay.
I think is another one that's just like very simple, and it's like actually I did make a noise when I saw it for
Yeah.
the first time. It's just like very beautiful, and the other one I think would be the new 39 millimeter Tudor Pelagos.
Really?
Yeah.
What about it?
I'm a Pelagos fan already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
That's right. You have a.
I have an
right?
LHD. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was something again about the no date, just making it very simple and symmetrical. That just like popped off the screen for me, and immediately was like, I need to have this watch.
So it's interesting you say that because we've been known for giving Rolex, Tudor their fair share of flack,
Yeah.
right? But
Says the guy in the Rolex hat.
Yo, lately I've been seeing all y'all with Rolex. And
hey,
y'all like Rolex.
But I used to kind of be like, like scoff at them with all these like little incremental changes. And then it dawned on me, and I know we know this, but like I actually had the opportunity to like sit and think about it. But like Rolex is in a situation where they're not incentivized to like scale, right? They're not incentivized to make money. It's a non-for-profit company, right? And so just the idea that we would go back to the drawing board and get something right, admitting that like maybe we made a couple of mistakes, I'm kind of into that. From like a design perspective, like hitting a restart button.
Yeah.
Is
Like,
that
let's
what the
do it
Air
again.
King? Because the Air King is totally different from the old Air King. The new Air King is totally. Everyone hates it. I've always loved that watch.
The original Air
The
King?
new Air King. I like the old one too.
It's better.
But everyone hates the Air King at all because it's like an entry level watch. It's like,
I don't hate the Air King.
I've only gotten hate.
But
But yo, I
the-
want an Air King. Everybody's like,
The original one with the dial and just that 5 sticking out like that, it did
Yeah.
bother me.
that was bad.
Yeah.
When you told me, I was like, oh, that is terrible.
I kind of appreciate they went back, and much like the Pelagos 39, I remember handling the LHD, and it was like, man, this watch is great, but it's too big.
I mean, I'm a bigger guy, so I can get away.
Sure.
I think with the 40, it's pretty thick.
Yeah.
Which is not great, but I think that removing that helium escape valve
Yeah.
and
I mean, even taking the date off, like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
making
yeah.
it like.
How do you
super
feel
clean.
about the MN though? How do you feel about the Marine Nationale?
oh, I,
thought it was
love, I
staged.
mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
love
hot.
that
That's
watch.
FXD.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
fits
Hot.
I think that the color's great. The thing that bugs me about it a little bit is
The
like
strap?
all the hash marks on the bezel. Like I get why it's there, and I get that it's like history, but it's like it just feels a little too cluttered. I mean, it's not gonna stop me from wearing it, but you know what I mean. It's like there's just something it just feels very like kind of over designed almost.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right. Getting into fashion and watches a little bit, because we are gentlemen that are not afraid to accessorize,
The fit gods are here.
right?
That's again putting it nicely.
yeah. But much like the collecting of watches of yesteryears, that's the relationship that ladies and gentlemen had to watches, right?
Yeah.
It was an accessory, and you were collecting watches not based on movement, but maybe based on brand, definitely because a name that you can trust and it was reputable, but also like what looked good. I'm curious, like what parallels are you seeing today with regard to collecting and some of the people that we know that sort of cross or intersect with fashion and watches?
I mean, I think one of the things that Instagram has done, and maybe just the internet in general, is given us all these little mini brands.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so whether we're aware of it or not, there is this type of like hyper curation of like what you present
You
to
talking
the
about mini
world.
brands in terms of watches? Or
No,
like
in terms
fashion?
of like individuals.
Okay,
You know what I
got
mean?
you.
It's like there's conscious, unconscious. You present yourself to the world in a certain way because you don't know if or when you're going to be on the internet. That day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
and
true.
at least it's something that I think this modern social media climate has kind of done for us. I think because of that, you have people that are just more attuned to what clothing says about them and
Sure.
what that story is. I know for me specifically, it's buying into a brand story and how that fits into my personal narrative is very important.
Yeah.
You know, I don't just want to put on anything that's made out of anything and for lack of a better word, disposable. You know, and I think that for me, watches is a lot like that too. It's like I like these things because they are sustainable, because they are things that will last and that collect stories and that will live longer than I will. You know what I mean?
It's funny too because I find that people who like we know collectors and we know them for collecting everything, right? So whether it's like art or books, literature, fashion, you use the term sustainability.
Yeah.
And I think that's hitting a note with me because of my relationship to fashion and how that parallels with watches and our ability to look at vintage and see value there.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
And so it's the idea that like, because when we think about fashion even a couple of years ago, and we still have like fast fashion is still a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like you buy something, it's in season, then it's out of season, you
Right.
discard it. You discard it. And I think to some degree, we do know people who treat watches the same way, like they have to have the new watch. But sort of the parallels that I see, like what I know you guys for doing is like buying like the right piece. Right? Like that piece that speaks to me, that piece that to much what you're saying, describing oneself as almost like a brand.
Yeah.
Right? And like what resonates with me, what represents me. Do you see it that way?
No, yeah. I mean, it's always been this, like I have to believe in everything I purchase. It's like I don't buy anything anymore.
Yeah.
So if I'm buying something, it does have to be that the aesthetic thing that I've always, like this is how I want to present myself. But I also feel like it is also right time and right place, because if you present me with something that's like, oh, I have this, that the Cartier was that for me.
Sure.
It wasn't the watch that I really wanted, but it was right place, right time, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
But the other watch that I have with me is a vintage Rolex.
I wanted to touch on this too, because this is your first Rolex.
Yeah, I mean,
Pull this thing out, man.
Yeah, pull it
Let's
out.
get a look at
It's
that.
definitely not what anyone thinks it is.
No.
It's something pretty.
no,
like,
and it's
special.
my whole life. I was like, yo, I don't need watches. I don't want to collect watches. I just want one vintage gold Rolex with the Gator band. And that's all I ever thought about. And now I want 50 Rolexes, Rashawn. You should want 50 Rolexes. But initially, I wanted like an old Air King, like something that was like, entry level. But I saw this. It was the presentation watch. It was from, 1971 or 72. And someone worked for this. It's like 24 years of service they got
it's
from American.
inscribed
I
in the
love
back,
made in USA. I think commerce needs to come back to US. Things like that. Shout out John from Pittsburgh. Still. But I saw it and I was like, oh, that's the first Rolex I want. And it has the engraving in the back, F. Smith. Shout out to F. Smith. He worked for 24 years for me to get this watch, which is crazy. That's good. Thank you to his kids.
Somewhere a member of his family is going to see this. And they're going to be like, damn you!
But I just think everything has to have a meaning. I think everything has to have a feeling. No, look at the applause.
That was good. I appreciate the comedic relief.
But it's simple. And it
Yeah.
has that second hand that I really like.
You really
But-
love
Love
it for
a
a
second
second
hand.
hand?
No, I
Yeah,
just
I'm
saw
like,
it and
oh
I was
my
like, oh
God.
shit, this thing is moving. I haven't worn it in like 3 weeks. But I don't know, for some reason I saw it and I had it. And I got it from Alan Bedwell. Shout out to him, Foundwell. He's not
Shout out
here.
to Foundwell.
Yeah,
He's
shout
not
out to
here.
Foundwell.
He's still alive.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
He's alive.
It's like
He's just not hanging out with us. He's still here with us.
But it was just very simple, and I just wanted something like this to wear every day. And I got a Frank Mueller strap on it, which I also think Frank Mueller's amazing.
Yes.
And
But you got this with the original strap, right?
yes, everything was original, box, papers.
So why did you put what happened with swapping the strap?
I think there's a rap verse. It says, Frank Mueller, who's cooler? I think it goes like that. I don't know, but I had the credit on the real, and they had a Frank Mueller strap. Because it wasn't...
Very simple.
Everyone said, do not wear the original strap. It's brand new
The
old
original
stock.
strap is Cordovan too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's quarter.
Yeah.
It was Lizard or something. I don't know. But you said, wear that fucking strap. You're
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not wearing
No,
that
that's
strap.
what it was. It was a lizard skin strap, and you
Lizard.
swapped it to a coordinate.
And I swapped it. But also that strap felt like it was going to just fall into pieces because it's literally not worn from the 70s. I don't know. It's very exciting. Finally, some people are very happy for me for having a watch from 1971. Thank you.
So what was it that made you, like, did you seek this out? Did found well sources for you? Like, how did that happen?
He already had a few. And we were just like going to Sedell's together. Shout out Adam at Sedell's. He's the best person in the
I
world.
remember I met you guys once, and so it was almost like every time you guys would meet,
It was
he
that
was
He would just show me some crazy
he was just
shit.
presenting you
And I'm
watches.
like, bro, I can't buy that. You crazy? He's like, yeah, it's only like $32,000. I was like, I cannot buy that. So I was just on his site, and I was reading all the descriptions because he puts like 5 paragraphs in his descriptions,
Yes.
which I think is
His
amazing.
stories
He's
are
very detailed.
fantastic. It's like I
And-
could just sit on there and read those all day.
So I would just read them, and I was like, this is something I want. It has everything I want, which I said in the beginning. It's just like someone owned it, someone worked for it, and it was brand new. So technically it's mine. Like, I'm the first person un-DS-ing this watch. So it's just like the first day, I was like, oh, this is something I've always wanted. Gold Rolex, Gator Band. I finally got the lizard or the Gator Band that I wanted.
Right.
It wasn't that deep at all.
Okay.
But shout out to Found because he made me want it because he knew everything about it.
So what's also interesting that at Fine, because we spent a lot of time talking to a lot of different collectors,
Yeah.
and people have they have methods in which, you know, how they collect, right? Like, you have some guys that will collect from a particular brand. You have some guys and women who collect for particular movements. The interesting thing about sort of our generation, like millennials or younger, people who are around that you know, this period, we collect based on aesthetics, but also what's interesting is because of that, it seems like our collections are far more eclectic, right? Like, when I look at your collection, it's, if I didn't know any better, if I didn't know you, I'd be like, this
Yeah.
is kind of all over the place.
Right.
Like, and even looking at some of the stuff you have, like the Cartier with the vintage Rolex makes sense, but then you throw an Ike pod in there, or Icky pod, I don't know. I mean,
Ike pod.
Ikey, Icky. Yeah, I guess Icky is not a good
yeah.
word. Okay, Ikey pod.
Stickiest of the ickiest.
Right? Like, what's that about? Like, how are you collecting? Like, when do you know?
I'm
Because-
collecting heart first.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like I see something and it calls to me. And I think we talked about this before, and it's just like I have to have it. I want it. Give it to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because of that, and because I have tastes for different things, and you might be in a different, you know, mentality, it kind of creates this eclectic collection. But I look at that and I'm like, oh no, this is me. Like, this
Yeah.
is like, I can see different facets of my personality and my story and like the things that I like, different.
So you're
design
almost
pieces,
looking
you know what
for
I mean?
yourself
A little
in
bit.
the timepiece.
Yeah, and there is some like chasing of things in there, you know what I mean? Like I want to have several like important movements in my collection.
Okay.
You know, there are certain brands that you know, have historic pieces that I want a piece of that story, you know what I mean? But the first things first is always like it's heart, you know?
Yeah. Yes,
Well,
yeah.
I have to ask, when it comes to vintage, right? Because we collect these things and they have past lives. So for the things that you do collect, I guess, modern, do you think about it as far as, you know, you being the owner of it now
100%.
to
Really?
give to someone else?
Yeah.
Or like for someone else to find something as eclectic to you and enjoy it? Like you said, someone worked 24 years for
you to have a watch.
For you to have the watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all just custodians of these things, and I think to talk about the sustainability, like, I don't want to buy something that's just going to go in the garbage into a landfill.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if we're being honest, like, our tastes change and what we want changes, our situations change. So there might be a time when this thing might not be mine anymore.
Yes.
I think with this Rolex specifically, I always wanted my first Rolex to be also my first Rolex. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted.
That's right. You don't
You know,
have any vintage Rolexes.
I don't have any vintage Rolexes. And I had a
thought
couple of
about that.
opportunities to do it, but there was something about the fact that I wanted a new one.
Because you have a lot of
first.
watches. You
I do.
have like.
I think I have like 4.
You got 2
now.
Pelican cases.
Will you?
Oh,
But
wow.
will
did say
you
that
collect? Will you
Pelican.
collect vintage Rolexes now that you have?
I will. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I love that.
And there was just something about I wanted this watch to be able to pass down to my future children or something, and it's also means a lot. Like this is a watch that I bought to celebrate 10 years of partnership with my directing partner. And it was
that's right.
Yes.
It was
Round
just
of applause,
that-
guys, please. Thank you.
that again, like now I work 10 years, making commercials and TV shows for someone else to get a watch in the future. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that I like
Engraved
putting
the
my
back.
story on it. So.
10 years of.
Yeah, and there is. I have it. I can't quite let it go yet, but there is an engraving that's coming.
Oh,
Love
really?
that.
Okay.
Love that.
Let
Yeah,
Ben
I
do
can't see what
it.
that
He
is.
does engravings.
Fact. We make it happen.
Yeah. All right.
Always selling.
I'm always buying.
whatever you
I'm always
want.
buying. So
Whatever you want. You're talking to the right 3 people.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
You got a question for
Yeah.
us?
So when it comes to, obviously this whole episode's basically been about design. What trends in design do you like, and which ones do you just want to stop?
I don't know. I don't think I know enough about the watch industry, or like I don't watch enough. Like I don't look enough at
don't watch
everything I
watches
don't like.
enough.
Yeah, I don't watch watches. Like I like to see what I like, but we moved upstate, and I only see what I want to see now. So I'm not like searching and just
Right.
overloading myself with things. So like the trends
Let me ask you though. Do you have any interest in modern at all?
in what?
In modern
modern
watches
watches.
at all?
Hell yeah, I would love to have.
He wants 50
a
Rolex.
lot of 50 Rolex. I want to eat 50 Rolex. No, I want everything, but I also think because I don't say I'm a collector, but everything that I buy is more so based off of my lifestyle. Like I'm not going to buy like John Reaper right now. He has a Patek Tiffany sign rose gold
ready to put
Patek
him out
on right
there.
now. Like I don't have the money to go buy that right now. So everything is in my price range and my budget according to my lifestyle. So I kind of have like a map of like successes. Like 10 years you bought your first Rolex, modern Rolex you bought 10 years in to something. So like me, I'm not looking at all those things. I'm trying to find who I am
But when
and
you
where I
see
am.
something, you know whether it's for you or not for you,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so like, what was the last thing that you saw where you were like, maybe
That's
it's good,
fun.
but not for me?
That Ferrari Richard Mille.
Okay.
So you think
This one's
then
following
watches
me
have to
around.
just go?
I love it. No, I think it's amazing because I think things need to push boundaries on what you can do with technology in the future and
I
stuff
mean,
like that.
that
It's
watch
crazy.
makes for a great conversation.
It's
in terms of
crazy.
That watch
design,
is
like
hot,
and,
man.
and technology.
It's
and what
amazing.
they were able to
I'd
do.
wear that all day.
But it take up half of my arm.
That's
That shit looks
fine.
crazy.
That's fine.
It looks like something out of Xena Warrior
Yeah, it
Princess.
does.
to me.
But even the Bulgari,
The Octo Phoenix.
Octo.
Octa Finissimo for sure.
I think to me, I think it's one of the most beautiful watches. But I think that the bracelet is too big for me. Like I have a woman's wrist.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, you just got a normal person's wrist. It's okay.
I don't know. This is a little wrist. But I just think like those things are gorgeous to me.
Yeah.
But it's not for me.
Yeah.
Good.
Like even this Explorer 2, I want the Explorer 2 that came out with like 89.
You want the 39
Yeah.
millimeter
Yeah.
case.
I love that. I think it's one of the greatest watches I've ever seen. I want it, and I'd be very excited to have that. But I think that we've talked about this. You're like, I love that new Explorer 2. I was like, I think it's way too big. I think I don't like the orange. Like those things, I love it. I love seeing it. But to me, it's not for me. So like, I want the old one to come back. So
What about yourself? What trends are you seeing that you would like? You're a fan of? Maybe not so much.
It's easier for me to say the stuff I don't like.
Okay. that's always fun.
Yeah. And saying this as somebody who owns an LHD, I'm not a fan of faux patina on watches.
Really?
And
I don't
it
like
just drives
that
me
either. That's
crazy.
terrible.
Really?
I hate
And
it.
I think, look, I get that so much of watchmaking is about like precision and control, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's some innovation in what if we made like lume or dials that would age beautifully in some way, you know what I mean, and let that happen. Like everything's made now to either like already look like it's aged or never change ever again. You
I
know what mean?
100%
and
agree
I
with
feel
that.
like there could be some innovation in like
The Bond watch does that.
it
The
does
Bond,
do that?
the
love
Bond
that
does
watch.
that.
Yeah.
The No Time to Die.
No time
Yeah.
to die.
Okay.
I love that
It
watch.
has
Full
faux
patina
patina.
with.
Yeah, but
Aluminum.
the dial gets tropical.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
true.
All
After
right,
a
I'll stand
brand new
corrected.
But it doesn't look.
But-
It looks brand new. That's the thing. It looks brand new now.
No, it has
later.
faux, it has
Yeah,
faux
faux
patina.
patina on it.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't look petite like that
No, it
Oris. I know
does.
the Oris you like.
Which one?
The bronze.
Well, I think bronze watches do. It's
Yeah.
great, right?
Yeah, well,
But
to
aren't-
me, it reminds me, like, especially when you parallel it with like fashion, I just think heritage. Yeah.
Right. So like, you know, I have a bronze Tudor. It's one of my favorite watches.
That's what I'm thinking
and
about, the
just
Tudor.
the idea of making something that will change, that will patina, that will age. Like the idea of atrophy in terms of design to me is very appealing because of topics like sustainability. You know, something that is lived with that will very quickly take on your story. I love that, and that's why I love the No Time to Die Seamaster as well. I think it's awesome. I like faux patina.
I don't
Yeah, I don't mind it. I like it.
Okay, look, I'll be
We're
the outlier in
divided
this.
over here.
It's one of those things where it's like, I want to make that myself by wearing the watch. You know what I mean? And I think that, I don't know, maybe there is an opportunity out there for watch companies to do something that can push those boundaries. Like, to me, that seems like innovation.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we loosen the reins in the right way to make these things our own? Like, take for instance, you remember the Zoom Romeros that Samuel Ross did?
Yeah.
The cold wall?
Yeah.
And they purposely didn't put the coating on the outside of the shoe.
Yep.
So as soon as you opened
Yeah,
it
I
out of the
remember
box,
that.
it
Yeah.
started to deteriorate.
Yeah.
And it folds and the paint chips in the right way. Like, it yellows that in a way that shows your story and shows what you're doing. You know what I mean? I think it's still one of my favorite sneakers.
But that can also backfire because Virgil had the Air Force Ones and the first Nikes he did, and if like 6 months later they look terrible. They're yellow. They don't look good. So I think it's a balance. I think I like the journey.
Yeah.
I think the journey is the most important part.
Right.
Is that when things patina on its own, it looks different.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
look at those Explorer 2s that are going, like those Tropical Dial, they go for so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cream dial Explorer
Yeah, but
2s,
like everyone's kind of different.
Gordon Ramsay has the best Explorer 2 in the
You
planet.
told me this.
I showed it to
I've seen that
everybody.
one.
It looks almost pumpkin.
It's the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with you. I don't like the faux patina.
Yeah.
So you didn't live through
Well,
it.
you guys stay over there. That's fine.
Yeah,
Do you have any questions for us? We're nearing the end.
Yeah.
We have the whole crew here.
he has the best question. I know his question.
My
It's the best.
question is for the inevitable first Wrist Check Pod watch collab, what is the watch you guys would design?
It's a good question.
That's a beautiful
I'm going to
question.
leave it up to Mr. Encyclopedia here. Because I would lean on him anyway. You know,
Right.
because you know what he's going to do? He's going to pick the right reference.
Right.
And we're gonna
That
play
sounds
around
too
with the
political.
colors.
I think
Reference
everybody
that
has to
work on it.
answer that.
You want 3 different watches?
different
I'd
answers.
love to answer that.
Please, three answers. We need 3 answers.
He's like, why are you choosing Ben? I'm right here. Okay, no,
All right,
I'm
3
sitting
different
right here.
watches.
go ahead.
3 different watches. Go.
I mean, for me, I would definitely go with a G-Shock.
Really? Okay,
Oh.
cool.
I want a WCP G-Shock collab.
That's fire.
Which model?
It would have to be either the Casio because that's
2100?
the 2100, or I'd have to go with the OG design. What everybody was like busting down.
Oh yeah.
So I'd go with that piece. I can't remember the reference. I'm bad with numbers, but it would either be the Casio because we're tapping into the present, or it would have to be my past and my DNA because that's where I grew the love for watches, or at least watches that I could obtain.
What about like a wrist check Frogman?
Ooh, that'd be nice.
That'd be dope.
That would slap.
That would slap.
I would do a Frogman.
We should do a
Frogman would be good.
Orange case.
Yeah. Like neon orange.
yeah.
You just
I'd
hit a
have one
push
of
and it
those.
goes WCP style.
I think that your laugh should be the alarm system.
I was gonna say, or like, you know how when you do the glow and like Supreme has like the Supreme,
Yeah.
it should say very special. When
Heater.
Casio, listen.
Stealing
listen.
that.
Next year, this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes. Very, very
Pretty good.
special
What do you got
watch.
for us?
FP Journe.
Sure. Just going full luxury.
Yes.
It's not about being inclusive. It's for us.
Sure.
We have to
Okay.
have the best.
Oh, to have our own. Oh, I would
Yes.
love that.
Whoa.
Or
Absolutely.
I mean, like, so Eric actually put me onto this. Journe made 16 watches for one of the old ADs in Chicago. It was a CS and a CS Chrono, right? The black and red ones. Yeah, there you go. So we would have a CS, so a chronometric sovereign, salmon dial, black minute track, gray numerals, and like an orange seconds hand.
You thought about this a long time
Someone
ago.
does just think about
A
that.
long time ago, he thought about this.
Yeah, no.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
that's if
It's
I had
on
to make a
point.
watch. That's what
That's
it would be.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Black strap.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Speedmaster.
Too many limited editions.
Yeah, no.
I just was
It
saying.
would
I
have
just
to
made
be.
anything up just now.
I mean, I would choose something probably more obscure. Honestly, I'd probably do an iPod.
All right, Christian Louis Cole.
iPod. I'm saying, you know him. You got the hookup.
I don't know him. I've got some voice
Send you a
memos.
free watch.
I got some voice memos.
I hope you're watching this. These people need to watch, please.
Love it.
No.
Yeah, I would do one of those. That would be
That'd be
pretty
amazing.
tight. Yeah, because I've been a fan for a long time. Like,
It's kind of like it was like an orphan for a second too.
Say it again.
It was like an orphan. Like not everybody. It was like divided. Like a lot of people loved it, but it was just like a niche
it
thing.
Was, it was very, very niche, even in its heyday. But I was a fan of Mark Newsom.
Yeah.
And
Made
at
everything.
the time, I wasn't a kid, but I was really young when this watch came out, when it was like popular.
Yeah.
And I always wanted one but couldn't afford it, so I got an Apple Watch because it was like, okay, this is a piece of like Mark Newsom design, and now he's moved on to like furniture and
He's
other
made
things.
everything in the world.
He's made everything.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun.
Yes.
I think we want to take a moment to see if there's anyone in the audience that has any questions. Okay.
Oh wow.
They shot straight up. We're gonna
Shot straight up.
Okay, so I see two. Immediately, we're gonna start here in the front. We're gonna start with Kelly. Kelly Yacht.
Wrist check.
Clap it up.
Yes, yes,
Wrist Check Pod alumni.
yes. Wrist check pod alum. Thank you, Kelly.
So I don't have a question.
Okay.
I have a statement.
We should have
All right.
seen that coming.
I know it's shocking that I may have an opinion.
Okay.
I want everyone in this room, when you go home, and this is posted and whatnot, I want you to listen to it again. As a retailer, as someone that is now considered vintage by this gentleman right here. 1971. Probably the oldest person in the room, but that's okay. I want you to listen to what they said over and over and over again, because it's something that I have preached since 1997 when I started my career. These men buy what they love.
Yep.
I am moved to tears because we are in the biggest hype genre that we have ever seen. And I know the people that follow this podcast are in the same realm. Buy what you love, please.
Yes.
Yes. We need a round of applause for that.
Buy what you love.
Buy what you love.
As someone that just genuinely loves watches, timepieces, and whatnot, these gentlemen are of a new generation that are truly representing everyone that I love. Please listen to what they're saying. And I'm old enough to be some of their moms on this stage. Really frightening to me, but it is something that I have based my career on, and it's something that I base my love on. And I am so proud of you boys. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
They are genuinely doing what is so good for this industry, and their age and your nationalities and all of it. I'm just so proud. And I work with 3 of these boys, and I am just so thrilled to be a part of this community, because this is what we're about. And as a retailer, this is what I bleed into the industry and into the customers and the clients that I take care of. So I'm genuinely just
Thank
saying
you.
to you,
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Kelly.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
We had another question. There was a gentleman in the back, real
There
quick.
it goes.
Stand up. Yeah. Is that Fernando?
Yeah.
All right, Fernando, what's happening?
So what do you think in terms of design, this whole new trend of new beautiful dials, and how it respects to your personal take of what you think that you should wear, which matches your outfit, your streetwear, whatever you benefit from it, and what matches your personality. In terms of design, the conversation is up to you.
So your question is, how do we feel about, I guess, the trend of dial design that's happening, right? The variety, I mean, you have everything from like guilloche dials are back. People are using like really incredible materials to design dials.
Yeah, like enamel dials.
People are using looms in interesting ways.
Yep.
Obviously, the absence of dials is a thing still with
Yep.
skeleton.
I mean, you have
skeletonized
the
watches.
mirror dials from AP now.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I'll give you my take on it. I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But I think brands are, because they're now starting to realize. It's interesting to say like post-COVID, but that's the best way I can describe this period. That the watch world is more expansive than they realize, and more diverse in terms of ethnicity, diverse in terms of age, diverse in terms of occupation, gender, etc. That they not only have an obligation, but they have an opportunity to open the conversation to more people, and that there are tons of consumers out there, collectors out there, clients out there that are looking for new and interesting things. And the idea that you would collect a watch based on aesthetics is one that, oddly enough, is growing again in popularity. That's where it started, right? But for a while, I think collecting watches for a lot of people became like an arduous task that you had to like check boxes.
Yeah, it's like
and
Pokemon almost.
Exactly, like it's like I gotta catch them all. But now it's like, what do you collect when you've got all that stuff? What do you collect when you can't afford all that stuff? I think to Kelly's point, it's like, take a deep dive in learning and exploring brands and find what you like. Yeah. So I'm a big advocate of what's happening in terms of design with timepieces and dials. One of the brands that come to mind, I'm really loving what Moser is doing. When you look at like the Vanta Black Streamliner, I think it's a beautiful timepiece. And how they're using this material. And it's interesting because me and Kelly had the opportunity to speak to one of the founders, and I was asking him what's it like working with that material, and he was like, if you touch it, it breaks and it ruins everything.
It deteriorates.
It's and so what these companies I think are going through now, just to bring this level of craftsmanship, to bring this beauty, it's not easy. Like they're making serious investments to bring you like new and interesting stuff. So I'm a fan of what's happening.
Yeah. I think I treat it like, when I think of timepieces that I love to collect, I think about it as like, the first day of school when you got your outfit laid out.
Get them in the morning.
Wait till they see this. And I think, it does tap into that love and that passion. I think for the guys that do have everything and they can buy everything and they can collect everything, you find them, they're always trying to check a box and they're never happy. When they get that one watch, they go, well, what's next? And you're like, hold on, dog, you ain't even enjoy what you just got. Like a watch is in front of you. And, I think we need to go back to the simpler of things. Of course, this is an expensive hobby. But when you are choosing to make this a passion, you should treat it as one. I think it's very important.
For sure.
I also,
No, go ahead. No,
I also think that people need to see it.
Yeah.
Like you need to go out and see these things first.
Yeah.
Because you can look on Instagram and on the internet and on Hodinky and all these things all you want. But I saw that ellipse, whatever, like I saw that today in person on your wrist. And I was like, now that's beautiful.
Yes.
But like you have to go see it. I come visit you guys all the time just to see stuff. It's like you don't know what you want until you really see it. Then it's not that whole thing about checking boxes. Because you can go on Instagram, but you can go on Instagram and see all this shit everything and dream and like I need this, and everything pushes you to want something. But until you see it for yourself and put it on for yourself, then you don't even know who you like. You're like you're just chasing something from someone else.
Yeah.
Go see it.
Yeah.
Like go to these people. Like people, you got to go in these places.
Yeah.
And aspire.
Visit your local AD. For sure.
Yeah,
Try on watches. I'm a big proponent of that.
I try a lot. I try to. Yeah.
We got one final question. This gentleman right here up front had his hand raised.
Are you stand?
You don't have to. We right here. Okay, stand. Let everyone see
Show
you.
him the Marty. Show him the Marty. The Marty.
Hey. My boy Jibba Drown.
So I have a question, right?
Sure.
So I know we Sean for years, so Sean knows I have a crazy obsession with spending money on stuff.
Okay.
He's got the Virtue Air Force One. He spends money.
Now, first watches, I want to buy a new watch.
Okay.
But I have this thing, I feel kind of weird buying watches older than 5 years.
Hmm.
Do you think that's a good hobby to have or not really?
A good hobby of purchasing vintage watches?
Yeah. 'Cause I'm
Well,
like-
5 years wouldn't be vintage. 5 years would still be.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
a
modern.
watch,
It's
yeah.
for your family moment.
So basically, you're talking about pre-owned watches, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I think that's a bad thing? I don't. I mean, I own watches that are older than my parents.
Yeah.
I
Every
think
vintage watch we have is a pre-owned watch.
I mean, but that doesn't mean that vintage is for everybody, right? Like, I think there's also something to purchasing a modern watch and making it yours, much to like what Jamaal was talking about with the Explorer 2. If there's something that you really want and it does something for you, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having like an emotional reaction to an object. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean that it taints your value system. So if you see something that makes you respond to it, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider how old it is. I would only consider that in relation to maybe the price and what I'm paying. You want to be a conscious consumer. You want to make sure that you're getting the better end of the deal. But I don't even consider that when I purchase watches. The first thing is similar to what Jamaal said. It's like, how does it make me feel?
Yeah.
And
That's what I would say.
then,
Leave
yeah.
yourself open to letting it have an effect on you. You know what I mean? As opposed to kind of coming in with a criteria, just it's like going on a journey. And it might not be right for you. It might be, but you never know.
But
know?
you're also in the right space, right? Amongst people who are avid collectors. And one of the beautiful things about like the watch community these days is that people are communing together and they're engaging one another and they're talking and they're sharing information.
Yeah.
So I think if you're at the beginning of your watch collecting, phase, one of the best things that you could do is just interact with the people in this room and get a sense of what's out there, what they like. Those conversations are going to help you decide where you're going to go on your watch collecting journey, right? It's going to help you pinpoint what it is that you like, what it is that you dislike, and what speaks to you. And so you have an incredible opportunity tonight because there are some serious collectors in the building from everything you could think of. We've got, Kelly is an amazing example, right? This woman ran the Patek salon at Tiffany's, but she's also like a huge swatch collector. Like you wouldn't even think that the two could occupy the same collection, but they do. Right? And so you're amongst people who like really love timepieces and are, excited to share that information. So I would just start there. Just start with the community.
I'm trying to figure out more. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out more of the line. I feel like more into the trend into the collecting. So that's my mistake. Get caught up on, this is trendy. I like this watch.
If you like
it's not,
trendy,
it's not
there's
your
no-
mistake, though.
Yeah, it's not a mistake.
Because
Yeah.
we come
but
from
there's
the
also
same
nothing
place.
wrong.
I want platinum Rolexes. We want everything. We want Marnie. Like you have Marnie on, you have Virgil on, right? So the thing is, it's not our mistake. It's what we came into, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, I grew up wanting Rolexes. Like those ain't Rolex diamonds. What the f you done to that, right? Because exactly, I knew you would know what that was. So the thing is, I have a friend here. His name is Spencer Trotman. I've known him. He's been one of my best friends for years, right? He's like, yo, I'm getting an Oris. I was like, what the fuck? What did you get an Oris for? That's trash, right? I said that. And I started reading. I started learning. I started going on blogs. I started talking to them. He loves Oris.
Love
I'm like,
shit.
yo, this
We
guy likes
love
Oreos.
Oreos.
Exactly. So,
Fact.
and I
Collectively.
start seeing things, and you
If
start
you don't
seeing.
own an Oreos, you
Shout out to VJ. We gotta give our honor and shout out to VJ. VJ, he will be watching. Please give him a round of applause. Please.
So it's not about the trend. Like, what did Jay-Z say? He's like, I don't want to be the trend. You want to be the trend or Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
And we all know Ralph. He keeps going past trends. And so it's just like, all right, so we get past the things, get information first, knowledge, right? Not everything starts from knowledge. So understanding, going to read these blogs and connecting with these guys. You know these guys. Talk to them. They know. They seen G-Shock. I walked in with friends with Rolexes and Pateks on, and they saw G-Shock. And I said, oh, I feel comfortable now. Ben, I would go into the store. He was like, yo, you want to try this on? It's more about connecting, right? And I saw somebody look like me. I had the same beard 2 weeks ago. I had a beard just like that.
Fact.
So it's like somebody who looked just like me was letting me try something on that I knew he knew I couldn't buy that watch, right? So it's more so about getting past the trend because we grew up with trends so long, right? It's not about trend. It's about finding who you are. And sometimes product helps you do that.
Yeah.
Like finding the journey and things. Like I have a 1970. Everyone laughed at me for buying that Santos Scout B.
I remember.
There's
you
like
told
that
me
little
I
ass
couldn't
watch.
believe
They were
it.
like that little ass watch. I was like, but this is for me,
Yeah.
right? So it's the journey for who you are.
Definitely.
All right, that's it.
And
I'm a little drunk. That's spicy picante.
What I wanted to make you think about though before we get off the topic is you
Please.
said you have this thing against buying watches older than 5 years old, right? I'm gonna
I
use
don't have nothing against it. I just haven't bought a watch that old as far. Like I had a watch, which I remember I had a watch, a break when I met him,
yeah.
and I just felt weird having it, and I sold it. And I bought a new watch and a new 18 karat gold.
Because you wanna like the
because you
new
felt someone
thing.
else saw that and didn't
Yeah.
like the Breitling.
Well,
Always
know,
buy what you like.
At the time, Breitland's was kind of like what a
No,
decline.
it was.
It was expensive, but it was like a decline, so I'm getting rid of
But
that.
it's what you like. It's
Yeah.
never what's
Yeah.
on the decline and what's on the up
And
and
what
down.
I want you to think about too is I'm gonna use Rolex as an example, right? So like Jamaal got on his new Rolex Explorer 2, right? That's a watch that literally in the last 10 years has not changed.
Yeah. No.
It's been the same watch for 10 years.
Yep.
So his watch, he let's say he's owned it for 3 months. He's worn it every day for 3 months, and he beat the shit out of it. If you find one that's 6 years old in better condition, taking price out of it, why wouldn't you take it if you like that watch?
Yeah.
Like I have no problem now with my day. Like there's nothing.
Oh, no problem with my day day.
I got no problem with my day day. That might be the name of this episode.
No problem with my
I got
day
no
day.
problem with my day day. Love that. Thank you for the inspiration, sir. I want to thank all of you for turning out tonight. I want to thank these two gentlemen on the couch.
Yes. Yes.
We really, really, really appreciate all of you. I promise you, this is not a vanity project. This is the real deal. We really care about timepieces, and we've been afforded the opportunity to connect with everyone in this room. And please don't be a stranger. This is the end of the podcast this evening, but it's not the end of the evening. For those whom I've not met and the guys not met, we want to meet you. Please come up to us, talk to us, tell us what you love, tell us what you dislike. This is the beginning of season 6 for us. And,
Starting off with a bang.
6 seasons and it hasn't even been a full year yet.
Yes.
Wrist Check Pod
We've been
makes
working
1
too much.
year on November 10th.
Yes.
And stay tuned because we got more coming. So
Yes.
thank you all. Good night.
You guys.